Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session on Aruna Chakravarty's fascinating historical novel, The Mendicant Prince. And as you just heard from the very slight indication given in the introduction, this is an incredible real-life story turned into fiction, and it's a pleasure to introduce this extraordinary book which retells the narrative, which recaptures the mystery and enigma of this narrative, which follows the fortunes of the royal family of Bhawal in the eastern region of undivided Bengal in colonial times. And the narrative is set against the backdrop of the independence movement, and it refers to the sensational case of Prince Rabindranath Roy, who was the second prince, the second son of the then ruler of Bhawal. And he died under mysterious circumstances. He died of syphilis while under treatment in Darjeeling, away from the royal household and his family. And he died on a stormy night, and his death was reported. He was assumed dead. This happened in 1909. But 12 years later, a sannyasi, a mendicant, appears on the scene, and he claims that he is the long-lost prince who didn't really die, but he lost his memory, and he is now back on the scene, claiming his title, his inheritance, his family. And what ensues is an incredible drama where the prince's own wife refuses to acknowledge him, while others who knew him, who were associated with him, including family, including his associates, including the people, they recognize him. And there follows a long courtroom drama, a long legal battle, which lasted across decades. And the case went through various courts and reached the Privy Council, and eventually it was resolved in 1946, by which time things were too late and the prince didn't really live to enjoy his restored fortune. So this amazing narrative has been recorded and documented, widely known to the public. It captured the fancy of the Bengali public, and it led to pamphlet wars and a lot of discussions in newspapers, and people flocked to see the mysterious sannyasi. People followed the court case, and there are many sources and documents available on this, including a book by Partha Chatterjee called The Princely Impostor, which Aruna says she has used as a major source in her narrative. There are also films that have been made over the years. Several film adaptations have been made. So what Aruna Chakravarty accomplishes here is a fictionalized version that brings to life, that breathes life into this well-documented story, bringing the characters, the ethos, and the setting to life. So Aruna, my first question would be, if this is something so well-known and so well-documented, what inspired you to fictionalize this story? What drew you into it?
Thank you, Radha. Actually, this story I heard when I was only 10 years old for the first time. And it was such an interesting story that it just stuck with me. And of course, from time to time, I was reminded of it through the films you've mentioned and other fictional writing. Not fictional writing, but other columns in newspapers, etc. But what really made me write the story was, something very simple. Some relatives of the Bhawals requested me to write the story. They said, you've done two fictional family histories already, Jorasanko, the Jorasanko books, and my own uh, the story of my paternal ancestors, the Inheritors. So why don't you write one on this case? Now, to answer the second part of your question, that what made me turn it into fiction was basically that, it was a case which was so well known, particularly in Bengal. It's been documented, recorded. You just have to search the internet. All the facts are there in the public domain. So I put off the whole thing because I kept thinking, what could I contribute? What could be new? Everything is there in the public domain. And then it occurred to me that how would it be if I made a novel out of it, if I fictionalized it, and that too in a particular way, because films have been made on it. I thought of using several voices instead of a linear narrative, which, as I said, you could just get from any source. I thought, how would it be if I used the voices of the women of the royal household and other women, the prince's wife, his sisters-in-law, his sisters, his mistresses, and because women are unusually impacted when any such thing happens in the family. But then nobody really bothers, nobody really records their feelings, their thoughts, how they reacted, how it changed their lives. And what was recorded, authentic records, in the authentic records, which I studied very closely, these women were just names. Nothing was known about them. So I thought, how would it be if I let my imagination run riot and give these characters distinct personalities, characteristics, and it was interesting, to make each person different. Like, for instance, the eldest sister of the prince is a very, very, feisty kind of a woman. She was the kind of woman who would have run the kingdom better than her brothers did, and so her father thought. I mean, all this is fiction. Then the second princess is a very religious person. She is constantly wrapped in a namaboli, and she's praying all the time. And the third one is a little childish. And so I really indulged myself in making people out of names. Fleshing them out, giving them thoughts, giving them aspirations, and even interpersonal relationships. And I thought this was the only way that I could add something. I could contribute something to a story that everyone knows.
I think you're underrating the accomplishment of retelling this story, because the narrative skill with which you tell the story is quite amazing. The number of genres that come together in this book. Historical fiction, it has strong elements of a suspense drama or a mystery thriller. It has been described as a page turner. It was named as the #1 page turner of the year by a well-known newspaper at the end of the year. And it can also be read as a legal narrative, courtroom drama. So you have brought together elements of so many kinds of fiction into this retelling. And one of the things that fascinates me about the narrative technique is the way it is a multivocal narrative. We hear so many voices in this narrative, and everybody has their own take and is playing their own part in the unfolding drama as it evolves. And we see, for instance, the voice of the narrator at the beginning setting forth the basic, initial facts of the story, and then we keep cutting across to chapters which are, actual reports, letters, archival material, and within that, entire chapters devoted to the personal narratives of characters who are drawn from real life and yet fictionalized, and Aruna has imagined what was going on in their minds and how things looked and appeared to them at various moments in the story, and the tangle of emotions, the intricate relationships within the palace, and the kind of class divisions, the kind of hierarchies that prevail even among the women in the family. Yes. But the kind of social documentation that comes through these other voices. And then at the heart of the book, what's fascinating is the silence at the core of the book, where the one voice we are dying to hear, we never hear through the story. We never hear the voice of the mysterious sannyasi claiming to be the prince. So while we are all wondering what's really the truth, what's the answer to this mystery, what's the answer to all these puzzling questions and all these different viewpoints on the narrative, the one who probably has all the answers does not speak in the story in his own voice. We do not, his inner life is not revealed to us. Aruna, please talk to us about how you told the story.
Well, Radha, obviously if I gave the prince a voice, there would be no story. I mean, he would just tell you whatever there was. He would be completely demystified. And I didn't want that. I wanted the mystery, the intrigue, I wanted that tension in the readers. You know, what is it? Why is it? And, you know, this constant, that suspense element, which is very much there in the case itself. Because though the sannyasi won the case at the level, at three courts, you know, the district court in Dhaka, the High Court in Kolkata, and even the Privy Council, the question remained that was he really an imposter? Was he really the prince? That is there at the core of the book. And why, I'll tell you, is because though he won the case was won on, the case was, the judges judged on the basis of circumstantial evidence, you see. 10 years had passed before the alleged death and the case starting. So a lot of evidence had been destroyed. And in any case, in those days, the recording was not so good. So the judges went by circumstantial evidence. So the question that, okay, he won the case, true, but was he or wasn't he? You know, that remains at the core. And this was exacerbated by his wife denying him. So that is really the central question, that everyone agreed that he was the prince, the subjects, his family, even his mistresses, everyone said that he was there. And they brought out data, you know, they recognized certain, certain spot marks on his body where the syphilis had left marks, and then other characteristics, the way he walked, the way he talked, and he looked very much like the man. So everybody agreed that he was the prince, but including his favorite elephant, you know, recognized him. But his wife said that he wasn't. So why? His wife and her brother. So that is really the mystery. So there I didn't want to, whatever I think or whatever I believe, I wanted to keep it out of the book. I didn't want to state anything. I have hinted at possibilities, teased probabilities, but I haven't stated what I think, because I don't want to bring my own feelings into the book. I want the readers to judge. So what I've done is I've tried to probe Bibhavati's character, the wife's character, that what made her do what she did. And that psychological probing, I think, is the most interesting part of my contribution to the book, because she must have been a special kind of person. So what kind of a person was she? What influences she had to succumb under? And so in the character of the queen, really, you get the answer, if there is an answer.
Arunadi, I think at this point it would be wonderful if you read a little bit from the book to let everyone have a sense of the flavor of the narrative. This is the book, The Mendicant Prince, and I request you to please read a little passage from it.
Okay. I think then I'll read the passage in which the elephant recognizes the prince.